What if a single human touch could restart the heart of an alien queen and change the fate of two entire civilizations? When Rowan Cade crash lands on a mysterious world, he's taken prisoner, until an ancient bond hidden in their DNA ignites a spark that brings a dying ruler back to life. But saving her heart is just the beginning. Betrayal, forbidden connection, and a secret that could unite or destroy the galaxy. This isn't just a rescue. It's a revolution. Stay with us. This story will electrify your soul. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move toward this wonderful story. Rowan Cade never imagined his career as an exploration engineer would end with flames licking at his cockpit and alarms screaming like banshees in his ears. The moment his small scout vessel hit the turbulent atmosphere of the uncharted planet below, he knew something was terribly wrong. The navigation systems failed first, blinking into darkness as the ship jolted sideways. Then the stabilizers gave out, pitching him into a steep, uncontrollable dive. The outside world became a blur of clouds, wind, and a strange, violet sky. Rowan grabbed the manual controls, muscles straining, his heart pounding harder than the thrusters could manage. "Come on, stay with me," he muttered, trying to wrestle the ship back into any kind of flight path. But gravity was winning. Through the crackling display, he caught glimpses of a landscape unlike anything Earth had to offer. Towering crystalline towers, glimmering rivers of liquid light, and vegetation that seemed to pulse with energy. Just before impact, a brilliant flash filled the cockpit and Rowan lost consciousness. When he came to, everything was quiet. Too quiet. He lay on his back, the floor beneath him cold and smooth like polished stone. His head throbbed and his mouth tasted of metal and smoke. Slowly, he opened his eyes. He wasn't in the wreckage of his ship anymore. He was in a vast chamber, taller than any building he'd ever seen, and lit by a soft, shifting glow from the walls themselves. Rows of strange-looking figures stood around him. They were tall, taller than humans, and thin, with skin that shimmered like the surface of a pearl. Their arms were long and flexible, their movements graceful and eerily silent. Most unsettling of all, each of them had 3 eyes, arranged in a triangular shape on their faces, glowing softly with an otherworldly intelligence. One of them stepped forward. Her voice was like music, smooth and melodic, but the words were clear. "The human is awake." Rowan tried to sit up but couldn't. His arms and legs were restrained by invisible bands of energy that hummed when he struggled. He took a breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm not a threat. My name is Rowan Cade. I'm from Earth. I didn't mean to crash here." Another figure, taller than the rest and marked with golden lines across his skin, sneered. "You entered Cerethian space without permission. That is an act of war, or at the very least, stupidity." "I was on a research mission," Rowan said. "The system was marked as uninhabited on our charts. I didn't even know anyone lived here." The tall figure waved a hand, dismissing his words. "You'll speak to Queen Leora. She'll decide what to do with you." That didn't sound promising. The restraints lifted suddenly, and 2 guards, larger and more heavily built than the others, escorted him down a corridor that twisted and bent in ways that seemed impossible. Everything around him shimmered with life. The walls shifted color in response to his movement, and the air buzzed faintly with energy. Eventually, they stopped in front of 2 enormous doors, which opened without a sound. The throne room beyond was breathtaking. A ceiling stretched high above, open to the sky, where twin moons glowed softly. Dozens of the alien beings lined the perimeter, their skin patterns pulsing gently. At the center of the room, on a raised platform that flowed like liquid metal, sat Queen Leora. She was unlike any of the others. Taller, with skin that shifted through colors in rhythmic pulses. Her crown was a network of living crystals that danced with light. She looked at Rowan with her 3 eyes, and he felt as though she could see right through him. "Come forward," she said. Her voice didn't just echo through the room. It seemed to echo inside his mind. Rowan approached carefully and knelt. "Your Majesty, I didn't come here on purpose, I swear." Before Leora could respond, she staggered. Her glow flickered and dimmed, The entire room gasped. One of her advisors cried out and rushed to her side. Leora clutched her chest, eyes wide with pain, and collapsed. Her crown shattered into fragments, scattering across the floor. Chaos erupted. Guards shouted. Weapons appeared, and all eyes turned on Rowan. "Her heart has stopped," one of the alien medics shouted. In the confusion, Rowan's instincts kicked in. The energy field around him vanished in the emergency, and without thinking, he sprinted forward. "I can help," he shouted, ignoring the guards yelling behind him. He reached Leora's side and dropped to his knees. He placed both hands over the area of her chest where he guessed her heart was. The moment his skin touched hers, a jolt of electricity surged through him. Not painful, but powerful. Something ancient and wild passed between them. Her skin lit up again, her patterns reigniting. Her eyes flew open, and she took a deep, shuddering breath. Everyone in the room froze. Rowan stared at her, hands still pressed to her chest. He didn't know what had just happened, but deep inside he knew nothing would ever be the same. Rowan Cade sat on the edge of a bed that looked like it belonged in a dream. The walls of the room shimmered like morning dew, and the furniture, though alien in design, was clearly made for comfort. A soft light drifted in from the translucent ceiling above, changing color as time passed. He still couldn't believe where he was. Just days ago he had been floating in the void of space, guiding a research vessel through uncharted systems. Now he was living in the royal palace of a planet he hadn't even known existed. A soft chime echoed through the room, and the door slid open without a sound. Dr. Nyla Varys entered, carrying a strange-looking device that resembled both a tablet and a seashell. Her long robes moved like water, and her 3 eyes focused on him with the precision of a scientist studying a rare specimen. "You seem well rested," she said in perfect English, though her voice had that same musical quality he was slowly getting used to. "I'm still waiting to wake up and find out this is all a weird dream," Rowan replied, rubbing the back of his neck. Dr. Varys offered the closest thing to a smile that her species seemed capable of. "You are quite real, and so is your effect on Queen Leora." Rowan's expression shifted. "How is she?" "She has recovered, better than expected. Your touch restored her heart function faster than any known treatment." She stepped closer and held out the device. "This shows your bioelectric field. It's unusual." Rowan looked at the floating display. It showed waves and pulses, strange symbols dancing in the air. "I'm guessing that's not normal?" "No. Your energy matches a frequency we haven't seen in centuries, not even in our own kind." She paused, tilting her head slightly. "Queen Leora's condition is hereditary. Her heart stops randomly. Until now, we could only restart it using painful and sometimes unreliable methods, but your presence, it stabilized her instantly." Rowan leaned back, trying to process everything. "So, what does that mean? Am I some kind of walking defibrillator now?" "You are more than that," she replied. "You might be her only lifeline." Later that day, Rowan was summoned to a garden within the palace. The air smelled sweet, and the plants pulsed with soft light as he passed them. Queen Leora was waiting near a pond, dressed in flowing garments that seemed to glow in harmony with her skin. She turned as he approached, her expression calm but unreadable. "You saved me again today," she said softly, "even if you don't understand how." "I didn't plan to," Rowan replied. "I just acted. Instinct, maybe." She stepped closer. That instinct may have changed everything. They sat beside the pond, silence stretching between them as they watched tiny glowing creatures drift across the water's surface. Eventually, Leora broke the silence. "I've ruled for many years. I was trained to be strong, to show no weakness. But this heart condition, it's a hidden truth. If my enemies knew, they would see me as vulnerable." Rowan frowned. "And now I know your secret." "Yes," she said, looking at him. "And that makes you both a risk and a hope." He shifted, unsure of what to say. "I don't want to hurt you. That's not why I'm here." "I know." she replied. That's what makes this more complicated. Over the following days, Rowan was given more freedom. He moved through the palace under the watch of soft-eyed guards, always feeling half guest and half prisoner. He spent most of his time in the archives or laboratories working with Dr. Varys to study his own biology. They ran tests, measured currents, and compared data. Every result pointed to one strange fact. Rowan's natural energy was perfectly matched to Queen Leora's unique biology. One evening, during a formal council session, Queen Leora stood to speak. Rowan watched from the side, knowing many of the advisors didn't trust him. Some whispered, others glared. He was, after all, a stranger. But when the queen suddenly faltered, grabbing her chest, everything else disappeared. Rowan leapt to his feet, racing past stunned guards as Leora collapsed once again. Her patterns dimmed. Her crown slipped from her head. Without hesitation, Rowan dropped to his knees, placing his hands on her chest. The energy leapt from his body like it had been waiting. Within seconds, her colors returned, her eyes snapped open, and she gasped for breath. Silence fell over the room. Leora looked up at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's you. Again." Rowan nodded, his hands still trembling. "Yeah, it's me." That night, a figure approached him in secret. He wore a long cloak that hid his face and moved through shadows like a ghost. "I'm Rivak," the stranger whispered. "I serve the truth." Rowan didn't move. "What do you want?" "There's something you need to know," Rivak said, pressing a small crystal into his hand. "The Queen's medication. It's not healing her, it's slowly poisoning her." Before Rowan could speak, the stranger disappeared into the night, leaving only a warning and 1,000 new questions behind. Rowan Cade paced the quiet lab deep beneath the Cerethian palace, the glow of alien equipment casting long shadows on the walls. The crystal Rivak had given him hovered above a scanner, its contents slowly unlocking. Lines of alien script scrolled across the screen, translated by the system he'd spent the last few days adapting. The data was shocking. The Queen's medication, the one she took every few hours, was laced with a neurotoxin. Not enough to kill her outright, but just enough to weaken her over time, slowly making her more dependent on the very treatment meant to keep her alive. Someone close to her had been quietly harming her from the inside out. His hands tightened into fists. Every time he'd seen her falter, every time she clutched her chest in pain, it hadn't just been a medical condition. It had been sabotage. He needed answers, and fast. When he brought the findings to Dr. Varys, her 3 eyes narrowed as she examined the data. "This is not a mistake," she said quietly. "Someone engineered this compound, and they've masked it well." "Who? Has access to her medication?" Rowan asked. Varys looked at him, her voice lowered. "Only the royal physician, the head apothecary, and General Halvix." The name made Rowan's stomach twist. Halvix had never trusted him, always watching, always waiting. Rowan had assumed it was just dislike for outsiders, but now it felt like something more. Later that night, Queen Leora met him in the hidden garden beneath the palace. The air was warm, filled with soft light from the glowing plants that reacted to their presence. She looked tired, her skin patterns dimmer than usual, but her voice was steady. "You wanted to speak?" she asked. "I know what's happening. To you," Rowan said, stepping forward. "Your medicine, it's not helping, it's harming you." Leora didn't respond at first. Her gaze dropped to the crystal he held in his palm, then slowly lifted to meet his eyes. "Show me," she said. He did. He laid out the data, the analysis, the evidence. She listened silently, not asking a single question until he finished. "Halvix has been by my side for years," she said at last, her voice almost a whisper. "If this is true—" "It is," Rowan said, "and it gets stranger. I think I know why my energy affects you." She tilted her head. "Because of our connection?" "Because of our shared history," he replied. "I accessed your genetic archives. I found something buried deep in the files." She looked surprised. The archives haven't been touched in generations. I had help, he admitted. Some of your tech recognizes my DNA. The door let me in. That caught her attention. It shouldn't have. I think it was designed to. Look, he said, activating the small hollow projector he'd been carrying. Genetic maps spun in the air, side-by-side comparisons of human and Cerethian DNA. We share more than just some similarities. There are sequences that match perfectly. Ancient ones. Leora stared at the images. Impossible. No, Rowan said softly. It means our species might have come from the same origin. Maybe we were one race, long ago, before some event split us apart. She touched one of the floating sequences with her finger. These markers, they're royal markers. That's the other part, he said. Your bloodline was engineered with a safeguard. Your heart responds to a very specific kind of bioelectric signal, one that modern Cerethian tech can't replicate anymore, but I can, because I'm human. She stepped back, visibly shaken. Then I'm alive because of a design created eons ago. One meant to link us. Exactly, Rowan said. That's why I can restart your heart. That's why we feel this connection. Leora turned away, staring at the glowing trees. If this is true, it changes everything. The history of our people, the purpose of our royal bloodline, and it means Halvix may have tried to destroy a bond that was written into our DNA. Just then a soft tone chimed from her communicator. She answered it, and Dr. Varys's face appeared. Your Majesty, she said, breathless, Halvix has called an emergency council session. He's declared you medically unfit to rule. He plans to assume control tonight. Leora's face turned cold. Then he moves faster than I thought. Rowan stepped beside her. We can still stop him. She nodded slowly. We need to get this information to the council. Let them see the truth. I'll help you, Rowan said. We'll do it together. But before they could move, explosions rocked the ground beneath their feet. Sirens wailed across the palace, and lights dimmed as backup systems activated. Palace defenses are failing, Leora said, eyes wide. He's already begun the takeover. Rowan grabbed her hand. Then we run. We get out. We live to fight back. She didn't hesitate. They fled through hidden tunnels known only to the royal line, the air thick with smoke and panic. Behind them, the sounds of fighting echoed through the halls. Ahead of them, the path was uncertain, but as their fingers stayed clasped together, the pulse of energy between them told them one thing. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side. Rowan Cade crouched behind a fallen statue in the darkened hall of the old temple, gripping the device he had built from salvaged parts and stolen tech. The room around him pulsed with the soft hum of distant gunfire and flashing alarms. Resistance fighters whispered in the shadows, checking weapons and whispering instructions. He could hear the distant voice of Queen Leora over a small communicator, tucked into his jacket. Her words were calm but tight with urgency. She had been captured, her health failing fast, and her public execution had been scheduled during the Empire's most sacred event, the Celestial Union, a ceremony watched by billions across Cerethia. If he didn't reach her in time, her heart would fail for the last time. General Halvix had moved quickly, declaring Leora unfit to rule and blaming her condition on an unnatural bond with a human. He'd convinced many nobles that Rowan was the real threat, a foreign invader manipulating the queen for power. But Rowan had something stronger than lies. Proof. Proof that Halvix had poisoned her, that Leora's condition wasn't fate, but treachery. And he had something else too, a connection to her that defied science and history. Her heart answered to him, and she wasn't just a ruler to him anymore. She was something far more personal. As Rowan checked his stolen palace ID, the temple doors opened silently, and Lena, the resistance soldier who had helped him escape, stepped inside. We've secured the path through the waste tunnels, she whispered, but you'll have to move fast. Halvix moved her to the ceremonial chamber early. Rowan nodded, tucking the bioelectric stabilizer into a pouch on his belt. Then, let's not waste time. With Lena guiding him, he slipped through the twisting tunnels, passing old pipes and forgotten chambers lit only by faint blue crystals. They emerged just behind the main palace wall, beneath a forgotten servant corridor. From there, Rowan moved alone, dressed in stolen ceremonial armor that hid his human features. As he neared the main hall, the sound of voices grew louder, cheering, chanting, the murmur of the gathered court and the broadcast drones hovering overhead. Inside, Queen Leora stood in the center of the grand chamber, locked in a glowing energy field, her head lowered, her skin pale, her light nearly gone. Halvix addressed the crowd, his voice booming through the broadcast system. Today we restore strength to our empire. The queen, once noble, has been compromised. Her bond with the outsider is a threat to our survival. Rowan ducked behind, a column, heart pounding. He could feel it, that faint flicker. Her heartbeat was weak, but it was still there, calling out to him. As Halvix raised his hand to signal the end, Rowan stepped into the open. "Leora," he shouted, tearing off. His helmet, gasps echoed through the room. The crowd froze. Guards raised weapons, but no one fired. All eyes turned to the human who had defied every warning. Halvix snarled, "Seize him!" But Rowan didn't stop. He sprinted toward the energy field, dodging a guard who lunged at him. He reached the control panel beside the throne and slammed, his hand into the wires. Sparks flew and the energy bubble collapsed. Leora crumpled to the ground and Rowan caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin was cold. Her eyes fluttered but didn't open. "Come on," he whispered. "Stay with me." He placed his hands on her chest, closing his eyes, focusing everything he had. The familiar electric surge burst through his body, flowing into hers. A spark. A twitch. Then her skin glowed faintly and her chest rose with a shaky breath. Her eyes opened, weak but clear. "You came." "I told you," he said softly. "I'm not going anywhere." Behind them, Halvix shouted in fury, pulling a weapon from his robes. But Lena burst into the hall with resistance fighters, weapons ready. A shot rang out. Halvix's weapon was blasted from his hand, sending him stumbling to the floor. The BI, resistance, streamed in behind her, surrounding the guards, securing the chamber. Leora stood slowly with Rowan's help and turned to face the gathered nobles and the cameras still broadcasting live across the empire. Her voice was steady, her skin shining with renewed light. "You were lied to," she said. "General Halvix has poisoned me for years. He made me weak to take my place. But I survived because of a bond our people forgot, because of a man who carries the spark of our shared past." She looked to Rowan and he stepped forward, holding up the crystal that contained the proof. "This shows the genetic link between humans and Cyrethians. Our ancestors were once united. Our bond isn't unnatural. It's destiny." The chamber was silent. Then one noble stepped forward and lowered his head. Then another. Slowly, across the empire, as the broadcast spread, more joined. Halvix, surrounded and defeated, was dragged away without a word. Weeks passed. The palace, once cold with suspicion, now buzzed with a new energy. Humans and Cyrethians began working together, sharing science, history, and stories. Leora ruled. Again, her strength restored, her people behind her. One evening, Rowan stood with her on the palace balcony. Below, the city lights flickered like stars and the twin moons rose above them. She rested her hand on his and the soft pulse of energy passed between them like always. "I never thought my heart would choose this path," she whispered. He smiled, drawing her close. Sometimes the heart knows more than the stars. And, as they stood together under a sky that now felt a little more connected, they knew they had changed not just their world, but each other, forever.